Long ago, in a land ruled by empires and filled with ordinary people, an extraordinary story began, one that would shape human history forever. This is the story of Jesus Christ, a story of love, sacrifice, faith, and hope. The story begins with a young woman named Mary, living in the quiet town of Nazareth. One day, an angel appeared to her with a message that would change her life. She was chosen to give birth to a child through the power of God. This child would be named Jesus and would bring salvation to the world. Though afraid and uncertain, Mary accepted this divine purpose with humility and faith. Mary was engaged to a man named Joseph. When Joseph learned of Mary's pregnancy, he was troubled, but God reassured him through a dream. Joseph chose to protect Mary and the child, trusting God's plan. Soon after, Mary and Joseph traveled to Bethlehem for a census. There, Jesus was born, not in wealth or comfort, but in a stable. With no place to stay, Mary laid her baby in a manger. Angels announced his birth to shepherds in nearby fields, calling it good news for all people. Later, wise men followed a bright star to find the child, honoring him with gifts fit for a king. However, not everyone welcomed this newborn king. King Herod, fearing a threat to his power, ordered the death of young children in Bethlehem. Warned by God, Joseph fled with Mary and Jesus to Egypt. After Herod's death, they returned and settled in Nazareth, where Jesus grew up in quiet simplicity. Jesus lived an ordinary childhood, learning the ways of life and work. Yet even as a boy, he showed deep understanding and wisdom. As he grew, people saw kindness, patience, and strength in him. Still, he lived humbly until the time came for his true mission to begin. At around 30 years old, Jesus went to the Jordan River to be baptized by John the Baptist. When Jesus came out of the water, the heavens opened. God's Spirit descended upon him, and a voice declared him God's beloved Son. This moment marked the beginning of Jesus' public ministry. Afterward, Jesus spent 40 days in the wilderness, fasting and facing temptation. He rejected power, pride, and selfishness, choosing instead obedience to God. When he returned, he began teaching people about God's kingdom. Jesus traveled through towns and villages, speaking to crowds large and small. He taught about love, forgiveness, humility, and faith. He used simple stories called parables to explain deep truths. He taught people to love their enemies, help the poor, forgive without limits, and seek God sincerely. Jesus' compassion was shown not only through words, but through actions. He healed the sick, restored sight to the blind, and gave strength to the weak. He welcomed those rejected by society, sinners, outcasts, and the brokenhearted. He fed thousands with very little food and calmed storms with a single command. Jesus chose 12 disciples to follow him closely. They were not powerful leaders or scholars, but ordinary people. He taught them patiently, showing them how to live with love and courage. Though they often failed to understand him, Jesus never stopped guiding them. As his influence grew, religious leaders became uneasy. Jesus challenged their focus on rules instead of compassion. His authority and popularity threatened their control. They began to plot against him, seeking a way to silence him. Jesus knew his journey was leading toward suffering, yet he did not turn away. He traveled to Jerusalem, where crowds welcomed him with praise, but behind the celebration lay betrayal and pain. During his final night, Jesus shared a meal with his disciples, teaching them about service and sacrifice. He spoke of love and forgiveness and asked them to remember him. Later, in the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus prayed in deep sorrow, accepting God's will despite the pain ahead. That night, Jesus was betrayed by Judas and arrested. He was falsely accused, mocked, beaten, and humiliated. Though innocent, he was sentenced to death. Carrying a heavy cross, Jesus was led to a hill where he was crucified. As he hung on the cross, Jesus showed mercy even in suffering. He forgave those who hurt him and offered hope to a dying criminal beside him. After enduring great pain, Jesus died. His body was placed in a tomb, sealed with a stone. For his followers, everything seemed lost. Fear and sadness filled their hearts. But 3 days later, the tomb was found empty. Jesus had risen from the dead. Jesus appeared to his disciples and many others, bringing peace and reassurance. His resurrection proved that death was not the end. Before leaving them, Jesus gave his followers a mission: to share his message of love, forgiveness, and hope with the world. Then Jesus ascended into heaven, promising to remain with them always. The story of Jesus Christ continues to live on today. His teachings guide millions. His sacrifice represents perfect love. His life reminds the world that even in darkness, light can rise. This is the story of Jesus Christ, a story not only to be told, but to be lived.